As the movie begins, we see an old hobo boarding a train, but someone has overwritten the name to Scumtown. Later, Hobo's seen walking down the street with a shopping cart full of garbage. He notices that people are committing many crimes even in broad daylight, and that the walls are covered with curse words and evil figures. As he walks around, he notices an amateur filmmaker recording two people beating one another to a bloody pulp. It turns out the cameraman is paying people to humiliate themselves on video. The camera guy then approaches the old hobo and offers him $10 to join in the fight. However, the hobo simply ignores him and continues on his way. Moments later, Hobo takes a cigarette from the garbage and starts smoking it, just when he hears a man yelling for help. When he looks back, he finds a man named Logan walking with a pothole cover around his neck, begging for people to help him. However, no one's willing to go near the poor guy, and instead they start running away from him. Seconds later, a car pulls up in front of Logan, and his elder brother Drake gets out of it. Apparently, Drake is the crime lord who governs the town with his firm grip, and just as he sets foot on the ground, another car arrives at the scene, from which Drake's sons Ivan and Slick get out. It turns out that Logan is being punished by these three for trying to run away from his duties. Immediately, Logan begs his brother to spare him and promises that he'll leave town, but Drake mocks him, claiming that no place for mercy. The three then place him in a drainage hole with his face outside and a barbed wire noose around his neck. Then, Drake gives a speech about disowning and torturing his brother, forcing everyone on the street to see this. They then return to their car and reverse it, until Logan's head is severed from his body. Everyone looks at this brutality in horror, as Drake raises the severed head up to his face and reminds the people that they may be the next contestant in this game. Meanwhile, Hobo observes everything from behind a tree and walks away with his cart. Soon, he stumbles across a store and checks a lawnmower priced at $49.99. Hobo takes a deep breath at the sight of the price tag and walks away. And moments later, he writes on a piece of cardboard that he's tired and wants money for a lawnmower. As he sits on the pathway, some teenagers arrive and spit at the cart before entering a house. Later, Hobo starts counting the coins he got, just when he notices Slick entering the house and decides to follow him, and upon reaching inside, he notices the teenagers murdering and torturing innocent people. They cause misery to one man with a bumper car, while Ivan crushes another man's foot with a hammer. Moments later, Slick approaches a boy named Otis, who's playing a game. He then threatens the boy for refusing to pay the money he borrowed. Slick attempts to hurt Otis, but he's stopped by a prostitute named Abby. Her bravery surprises Slick, but he refuses to let Otis go. Just then, Ivan appears and breaks Otis' arm on the arcade game, and on top of that, he forces Slick to snort a bunch of coke. Meanwhile, Abby tries to flee the scene, but Slick drags her to another room and offers her money to sleep with him. The two share a kiss, but soon after, Ivan enters with a black sack, revealing that the brothers want to abduct her. Fortunately, before they could do harm, Hobo suddenly appears and threatens Slick to leave her alone. Now, Slick laughs at his threat and walks up to beat him. However, Hobo ends up landing a kebab punch on his face before knocking him out with his coin bag. He then asks Abby what she was thinking and advises her to flee before anyone arrives. In the next scene, Hobo brings Slick to the police station and requests that he be locked up. When the chief officer arrives, Hobo asks him to help him to get rid of the gangsters in his town. The officer responds that even though he wants to, he can't do so, since Drake controls everything in the city. Seconds later, the officer suddenly stands up and points a gun at Hobo, and as the door opens, Slick and Ivan make their appearance, and it turns out that the cops are also under their control. The brothers then restrain Hobo, while Slick carves an insulting word on his chest. Following this, the policeman carries Hobo's injured body and throws him down the trash bin. Next, we see Abby on the sidewalk negotiating a deal to blow a man inside a car. Just then, Hobo appears and stumbles on her, pleading for help. She then brings Hobo into the house, where she treats his wounds and thanks him for saving her life. Hobo notices an empty photo frame on the table and advises she keep her family photo there. However, Abby explains she has no family members or good memories. Here Hearing this, Hobo remarks on her looks, stating that she appears smart. Hobo suggests that she become involved in teaching so that she can teach kids about amazing things and wonders. However, Abby says that her only alternative for living in this place is to be a prostitute. She then tells Hobo to get some rest and places him in a comfortable bed. The next morning, Hobo gets up early and goes around town. He runs into the filmmaker again and agrees to do horrible acts on camera, such as eating glass and scooping up money on the street with his lips. He then saves up enough money to buy the lawnmower and goes to the store. However, a bunch of armed thugs invade the store and start causing unnecessary chaos. They threaten to kill everyone if the clerk doesn't hand over all the money in the cash register. Fortunately, Hobo notices a shotgun in the shop, so he takes it up and shoots the thieves down, and after neutralizing the robbers, Hobo pays the store owner for the shotgun and walks out. Hobo is now sick of men taking advantage of the town's weak citizens, so he decides to do something about it. At first, he returns to the filmmaker and aims the pistol at him. He then forces the filmmaker to swallow his own tapes. Then he witnesses a pimp forcing a young girl to be a prostitute. Hobo frees the girl and tells her to go home while threatening the pimp. He then walks inside a dark warehouse where two abusive men are keeping many girls hostage. Without much thought, Hobo shoots both of the men while the girls scream in terror. Following this, he goes on a spree, shooting and killing all the horrible guys in town, including a predatory Santa Claus peeping on kids on a playground. Soon, Hobo becomes well known as a vigilante who defends the town, and people start to appreciate and respect him. All of his actions are also widely covered in the press. After seeing the news about Hobo's bravery, Drake becomes enraged and shoots at the television. He turns around and screams at his sons for letting Hobo go wild, while two topless women torture a man in the background. Then he orders his sons to execute Hobo as fast as possible, after which he slices open the man who's being tortured. The next day, Ivan and Slick take over a school bus full of students. They ask the kids if they like homeless people, and they scream yes. In their rage, the two brothers set fire to the children. They then enter a TV station and assassinate the reporter on air for supporting Hobo. And without any empathy, the brothers broadcast the burnt body of a child and instruct everyone to kill all homeless people if they wish to live. Following this, the police and townsfolk get together and begin killing all the hobos and homeless people in town. In the next scene, we see Abby walking down the streets of Scumtown when a police officer approaches her and asks the girl to sleep with him. However, she rejects his proposal and runs away. Furious by the rejection, the cop pursues her and tries to force himself on her. Now, while Abby begs the officer not to hurt her, Hobo arrives out of nowhere and shoots the cop with his gun. Soon after, Abby and Hobo hear a big crowd approaching them. Hobo immediately reloads his gun, but Abby claims that the folks are not bad people and that they're just terrified. Abby then helps them escape by hiding them in a cart full of body parts and intestines. Later, while the two enter the apartment, Otis notices them from a distance and immediately alerts Slick. Meanwhile, Hobo tells Abby that he always wanted to own a lawnmower and start his own business. She then gets excited and tells them that they can leave town and do it. As they pack their stuff to leave, Ivan and Slick arrive at the apartment by smashing the door. Now, Ivan begins punching Hobo while Slick throws Abby against a wall and places his fingers in her mouth. To save herself, she picks up a piece of shattered glass from the floor, slashes Slick's face with it, and flees into her bedroom. Meanwhile, Hobo faces up against Ivan, who's wearing ice skating shoes. Ivan strikes him with the razor blades on his feet, but Hobo deflects the blades with a shotgun. He then grabs an oven toaster, and Ivan's blade hits it, resulting in, on the other hand, Slick comes to the bedroom with a saw and begins slicing Abby's neck. When Hobo hears Abby wailing in pain, he rushes to her aid. He then walks into the room and points his gun at Slick. Following that, Hobo leads the brothers out on the street and shoots Slick in the crotch as Ivan flees. Later, Slick calls his father from the phone booth and alerts him of his situation. He then eventually dies after hallucinating about the burning school bus. Afterward, Hobo leads Abby into the trolley and goes to the hospital. There, he threatens the medical personnel to treat the injured lady. Terrified by his demeanor, the doctors try everything to save Abby's life. Elsewhere, Drake mourns the loss of his son, and to take his revenge, he calls a lethal pair of robot mercenaries called Plague and tells them to bring him Hobo at any cost. A while later, the doctors are able to save Abby's life, and while she's lying in the hospital bed, Hobo gifts her a flower pot, saying it will help her remember him. Now, Hobo stands up to take his shotgun, but Abby says that he can't solve everything with bullets. However, Hobo claims that this is all he knows. Soon after, the Plague arrives at the hospital and murders all the workers by hanging them from the ceiling with a spear cannon. They then wait inside Abby's chamber for Hobo to enter. By using Abby as a hostage, they successfully capture Hobo. Now, as they take him away, Abby discovers that he's left his shotgun behind. Realizing that her savior's in serious trouble, she grabs the gun, breaks inside a shop, and prepares other weapons for potential battle. When Abby exits the store, a large crowd gathers and asks whether she's homeless, so they can kill her. However, Abby climbs up on the bench and delivers a lengthy speech in support of homeless people before walking away. In the next scene, Drake greets everyone in the stadium and introduces the Plague and Hobo to the audience. The robots then wrap a noose over Hobo's neck and secure it, before taking him to the hole and placing him inside. With the stage set, Drake compels the Plague to kill Hobo, but just then, Abby appears at the scene and manages to hold Ivan hostage. Initially, Ivan's convinced that his father would save him, because he's the only son remaining. However, Drake says that he never felt Ivan could be the leader in the first place, so he shoots his own son. Now, Abby starts fighting the Plague. She blasts one of them up with a shotgun before dismembering them with a chainsaw. She then confronts the Kingpin Drake, and he saws off her arm. Screaming in agony, Abby stabs Drake with her exposed arm bone to break free the Plague's remaining half, informs her that she must replace their dead partner because she murdered him. But Hobo aims a gun at them and tells them that he's not going anywhere, causing the Plague to walk away. Following this, Hobo rushes up to Abby and asks whether she's alright. He then approaches Drake, who's injured and lying on the ground. Hobo aims his pistol at Drake, determined to finish him, but the cops arrive and urge him to surrender. At this point, all the cops aim their guns at Hobo and tell him not to shoot Drake. However, Hobo's in no mood to comply, so he ignores the officers and uses his shotgun to blast Drake's head off as he fires his weapon. Everyone starts to shoot, and several people, including Hobo, get killed on the spot. That's all for today. Subscribe and like it if you want more videos like this.